Hi there, I'm Andrew McCombe and welcome to Outlier. In this week's episode, I'm in beautiful Manly, Australia, where I'm going to be talking to Jacinta McCombe, the co-founder of Nectar Cold Pressed. Okay guys, I'm excited. Jacinta is also my wife. I'm looking forward to this one. Let's go and check it out. Jacinta, welcome to Outlier.
Thank you.
Beautiful day in Sydney, or it's a little foggy at the moment. I'm sure it'll get better, as it always does. Jacinta, you have one of Australia's favourite cold pressed juice brands, which is no mean feat, but it didn't always start like that, did it?
No, definitely not. I mean, Kim, my sister, we started the brand together back in 2014. It was after a long conversation about what's next on the cards, what we're both going to do. We both had 2 young children and we both wanted to do something together that definitely helped mothers, but helped also people be able to consume more raw fruit and veg in their diet. So Kim, coming from a chef background, she was very much looking at the market, seeing what the new trends were going to be, and cold pressed juice was definitely one that was growing overseas and she wanted to bring it here. So with my background, I had just sold a cafe back in 2013, had a little bit of time off, and then together we brought Nectar to life, working on the ingredients, working on the recipes, and slowly but surely making our way into the market.
So how does that happen? Like, Kim came to you with an idea? What's the process?
It was definitely all idea first.
How did you feel? Like, did you feel resistant at the time, or...?
Well, at the time, after selling the cafe, I'd been in the cafe for 6 years, and had both of our young boys then, and we decided as a family it was time to sell up and have a bit of a break. And I guess I wasn't really looking to go straight back into business straight away, or definitely not, I guess, starting something from scratch. It was another big step as well. So it took a little bit of talking to and a little bit of playing around with recipes. I actually visited an old chef that we both used to work for back in Melbourne, Ian Curley, and he had a venue in Melbourne that actually had a little cold pressed juice gelato bar. So he showed me his machinery. He sort of gave me a bit of a rundown on how it all works, how the flavours work. But I was sold. Like, I'd never tried cold pressed juice before that day, and come back to Sydney and told him all about it, and we went from there.
So from there, how does a business begin? Like, it's a manufacturing business, so it's obviously going to have a lot of outlay, and you probably need space. And
yeah, I guess for the start, because we were both hospitality background, we were focused, I guess, not even on the manufacturing side. It was all about what the juices look like, what they taste like, who was going to buy them, and is it going to work? Are people going to spend? Back then in 2014, our juices were selling for $7, $8 a jar. So it was a little 250, 300 ml jar that people would buy in a cafe, after yoga or after the gym, and that's how we sort of got our initial traction to just test to see if the model would work and if there was demand for such a product. So, once we did hold a really, actually, now I think it's quite funny, a really fun focus group day, I guess. We invited a big bunch of our colleagues and friends. We hired a little room and put all of our original flavours up there for people to come around and taste and write a few notes on each flavour. And I think we blew most people's heads off that day. Like, it was a bit crazy, the flavours that we had and the amount of...
Well, they were good, or...?
They were good, but, everyone was like, whoa, the ginger in this is super strong and this one's a little bit, the texture's not quite right. And it was amazing feedback, because from then we had, I think, 6 or 7 recipes, and then we culled it down to 5. And then eventually, when we did release our first recipes, we started with 3 recipes. We decided that, okay, across the board, we definitely wanted a green juice. We wanted an orange colour juice, and we wanted a red juice, which is beetroot based. So, and all of those flavours represented our direction for that time was to consume more raw fruit and veg, but mainly veg. So we really focused those 3 flavours on vegetable-based flavours. So after a number of more sample days, we came up with our Green with Envy juice, which is majority green leafy green veggies, our Eagle Eye juice, which is more than 50% carrot, and also our Upbeat juice. Upbeat has carrot, beetroot, celery, and that makes up 85% of the whole bottle.
And I believe, is it 600 grams of vegetables per, is it 300 ml bottle? Is that?
Minimum, yeah. So with cold pressed juicing, it's a slow form of juicing. So everything is crushed. Most people know juicing as centrifugal juicing, the fast blades spinning around, cutting everything up really quickly. But then when you get it in your cup, it's quite bubbly and foamy. And that's all due to the fastness of the blades. And actually what it does is as it's cutting up the produce so quickly, the produce, it creates friction and it starts to oxidize pretty much straight away. So yeah, those juices are still great for you as long as you consume them on the spot.
So they're not as healthy as they're made out?
Look, they're healthy. They're still healthy, fresh juice. There's nothing added to them. It's just exactly what the fruit is. It's not that it's not healthy, but cold pressed juicing is a healthier way of juicing your produce because it's slow and it crushes the produce, doesn't cut it up with blades, and it just keeps all of the nutrients and enzymes together rather than being destroyed. And what they do is that transfers into your bottle or into your glass, and then you can drink that. So it's the least affected that you get a juice from your produce.
Yeah, so a cold pressed process is different to a centrifugal, which creates the heat that kills the nutrients over time.
So another word for cold pressed juicing is also masticating juicer, and that means it's just literally the tines roll together, your produce goes through the middle and it rolls out the bottom. Very slow.
So it's a machine that does that?
It's a machine. There's no blades, no fast spinning blades, nothing that cuts anything. You just feed the produce in the top and it crushes it through the bottom, and the pulp comes out one side, which is super dry. It squeezes everything out of it and your juice comes out the other part of the juicer. Right.
So 600 grams per 300 ml, that sounds pretty impressive to me. And obviously they're crushing a fair bit out of that amount.
Yeah.
You did your tasting, you had 3 amazing flavours. What was the feedback like originally? Like what was it that then kept you going?
At the start, actually, so after we did get our flavours together, we started at a little cafe in Manly. We thought, okay, let's find a nice little spot. They didn't already sell juice, so it was something extra for their fridge. They were coffee and they had like little raw healthy treats. So we put some jars in there with our little handwritten labels on each one just to see how it would go. And then as cold pressed juicing, when you do it, it only has a 3 to 5 day shelf life maximum. So as soon as you open that jar, you need to consume it. It's a fresh product. After 4 or 5 days, everything starts to disintegrate. So we thought, okay, if we want to have a juice that people are going to be able to buy, and our focus at that time was all cafes, restaurants, because that was our forte. We knew we had been in the markets and been in that network for a long time. We thought, if we're going to sell this to our customers, how are they going to keep it on the shelf for 5 days or a week? Like they can't get through a Monday to Sunday with the same juice on the shelf. And we were just trying to think, okay, how are we going to make that? How are we going to do the distribution? And Kim had also been researching about high pressure process. And that's what we use now on our juices. And she saw that happening in America. And we found one company here, luckily in Sydney, that would process our juice for us. And we've been with them since day one.
So are you saying that the 3 day shelf life was an issue initially?
Look, initially at the small scale we were, and what we were doing for people, no. If we wanted to make juice every second day and be on the road delivering every second day, of course, it's a business model in itself, but we wanted to grow the business bigger. So we wanted to put a long-term plan on how we can grow distribution, and distribution business didn't seem right for us to then have to be having potential wastage for our customers and then also having someone on the road every second, third day delivering juice. Yeah. And then people having to manage, and cafes and restaurants are very busy places. Something can easily get missed or not rotated properly, and then you've got a potential off juice sitting there that gets served to a customer. So we're just trying to mitigate all those different points to find the best way of having and structuring our business for the long term.
And obviously a distributor with a 3 day shelf it's too hard, isn't it?
At that point, distributors weren't even a conversation for us. Yeah. But now, obviously, knowing our distributors for today, they wouldn't even look at it. They wouldn't look at it if it was 30 days. Yeah. Most distributors are looking at a minimum of 90 days plus for a shelf life. And
so what is your shelf life now?
So now, after testing, we've done a number of testing over the years, and we have 90-day shelf life from the day it's processed at HPP.
Wow.
So which is plenty for our distributors, our cafes. There's no wastage issues. and people are very happy. The quality is amazing, and it's the most naturally tasting juice that you can get without it being heat treated.
So I know there's other juices on shelves and that, like you go into a supermarket, they could be for 2 years or something. What's the process, and then how, like, do you really want to be drinking a juice after 2 years? Like, how does that work?
I guess, it's funny when thinking about 20, 30 years ago, we all used to buy juice off the supermarket shelf, not even in the fridge. And it's still available these days, but all of those juices are heat treated, use concentrates. It's not 100% juice, which we are lucky enough that we can actually manufacture today and have people purchase. So, when people can purchase our juices now, they know that they're not getting any additives, they're getting 100% fresh produce, there's no concentrates, and they know exactly what they're putting into their body. And that's what the market's demanding now.
So how are you ensuring that? Like, what's the process to ensure a 90-day shelf life?
So we do regular testing, regular shelf life testing on all of our products. And also the high pressure process. I mean, I guess I need to touch on that a bit more because not many people may have even heard of it and understand what the difference is. The majority of juices are heat pasteurized or flash pasteurized. So the temperature is raised up to a point where it kills any bacteria and doesn't allow any bacteria to grow in the juice, and then it's brought back down to refrigeration.
And what does that do to the nutrients of the juice? Exactly.
So it literally cooks the juice, even though it stops any bacteria. And so then when your juice is sitting in that fridge to buy, if it's been flash pasteurized, actually a lot of the nutrients are gone because they've been cooked out in that.
So just for my sake, the people have cold pressed the juice and then pasteurized it, so it kind of negates it. Is that?
Yeah, there's not as many doing that. I think people have learned, okay, if we're going to flash pasteurize, there's no point marketing it as cold pressed. People are starting to become more savvy and learn, okay, cold pressed, usually you would think is not heat pasteurized. You would assume, But for us, for example, so cold, high pressure process is a process where all of our juices, like this one here, it comes into the high pressure process factory, and they go into a cylinder, and it is processed at a super high pressure and cold water. So it's the equivalent of taking a whole batch of our juices to the deepest part of the ocean, and the pressure that is down there then stops any bacteria from forming in the juice. And everything's done at cold chain, so everything stays at refrigeration temperature from the time we manufacture it in our factory to the time it gets processed to then our cold chain distribution.
Fantastic. So that's obviously a point of difference in itself, would you say?
The high pressure process?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you can tell with the taste. You can line it up against pasteurized juices, juices from concentrate, and you can just tell that the natural flavors are still there because the juice has not at any time been heated or cooked or, used by a centrifugal juicer. All of those things play a part in the way the juice tastes.
Yeah. So obviously you've learned all of this along the way through, obviously starting with a 3-day shelf life, but I heard it all started on the kitchen bench. So,
of course,
like, what sort of machinery do you use on the kitchen bench?
Look, Kim and I looked up a number of juices, and we had talked to a couple of people, and the restaurant that we saw originally in Melbourne, where they had the gelato and the cold pressed juice bar, they had a little Angel. And the Angel, we decided, okay, we're going to buy exactly that machine. This is what they use in their juice bar, and if we can get this flavoured taste for our juice, that's what we're going to use. So we'll use that. We bought one, and honestly, that juicer was our saving grace. It was amazing. The way it juices every single produce, like the greens, we're using mint, we're using kale, all the beetroot, the carrot, everything would come out so pure and rich and dense. So, we invested in one of those, and because we started to do this little trial in the cafe in Manly, it was getting busy, and so okay, maybe we need a second one. And so then we had a bit of a break. We did some sort of analysis over how it had gone for 3 weeks, how much we sold, how we're going to increase the volume, what's the next step, because people are already asking us to do some functions. Can you do our CrossFit function and make all this juice? We need 100 litres. And I'm like, how do we make 100 litres out of this little
Well, how many was it making at the time?
Oh, look, I don't know, but one night we made 100 litres and it took us 10, 11, 12 hours.
What?
Like, we were juicing all night for this function the next day. We had no idea. We're just like, yeah, we'll do it. And it took us forever. So on the kitchen bench, as best as we could to try and get it all all sorted for the next day. But it was great. Like, the function was awesome. They were super happy. Everyone loved the juices. So it just sort of reinforced, okay, we've come to another hurdle here. How are we going to make this if people want, if start selling to 3 cafes, 10 cafes?
So, and you mentioned you've got 2 kids each at this point, and you're up till middle of the night or whatever, making 100 litres. Is that sustainable?
Like, at the time when we started it, we're like, okay, we can work 1 or 2 days each a week. We can build it up. But, it just, as time went on, it grew and grew, and we were both sort of, okay, extra days of daycare, and how are we going to do this? And who's going to do deliveries today? Or, it was just, it was great for us, and great for us to be able to work together to then bring Nectar to life, And I guess both of us look back and are really proud of how it's turned out.
So obviously that's pretty exciting for you guys. Did you have a vision at the time for grandeur of millions of bottles being picked up by a brand somewhere else, to like a Coke or someone? Like, what was the vision, or did you not have one?
Look, initially, of course, we had a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
5-year plan, get as many cafes on board, and hopefully Coke or someone was to buy us. That honestly, obviously that was the plan initially. But 5 years has already gone past, and we're now making our next 5-year plan. I guess there was a point, though, after buying our Angels, we were like, all right, we need to... Another big step was buying our big machine, our big press that we got from America. And that was a big step. We had to outlay then, so both families outlaid, a total of about $35,000 to get this machine over to Australia. And once that machine landed, it was funny, because then it was almost energetically, because we had trusted that it was going to work, we bought the machine, and from then it just started rolling. I was out visiting all the cafes and all the people that I had met in my network, going to restaurants. Kim was making recipes, doing adjustments, trying to get all the labels sorted, and then so the big machine arrived in January 2014, and by March, late March, I think it was Easter weekend, we had our first customers put in a bottle with a label, putting it onto their shelves for that.
Wow, so you took the risk. You did the big machine first before you had any long-term customers.
We did. And I guess after knowing how well it went at our trial cafe, we knew that instantly a handful of cafes in that area were going to take it. So, I just had to keep knocking on doors, right? It was cold calling. No one knew what cold pressed juice was in 2014. No one knew what high pressure process was. And a big part of my conversation with every single person was, why does it cost so much? Why is it so much more than Charlie's or Emma and Tom's? And so there was a big education process, a lot of conversations, a lot of phone calls, a lot of following people up and being the pest. But, we started on the northern beaches and got a pretty good spread of customers. So at one point we would deliver we would produce 200 bottles in a week. So 200 for one production week. Like, whoa, it's a lot of bottles. And over the time, we said, okay, let's try and make it to 1,000 a week. So 1,000 a week was a pretty good milestone for us. And then we got to 2,000 a week. And now, I guess when you wind the clock forward 6 years, we're now upwards of, we don't even count in bottles anymore. We count in litres. And we're doing, between 10 and 15,000 litres a week.
So that's about 50,000 bottles.
Yeah, if you look at it equivalent to bottles.
Wow.
But, a lot of the stuff we make these days is bulk juice for, cafes or restaurants or other contract packing customers. So people who are all a little bit like maybe our competitors, but we make the juice for them and then they sell it to their channel.
Wow. So it's quite a significant change. So other than a 5-year plan, there wasn't really a vision, but it almost sounds like it's worked in reverse for you guys. So like you mentioned with the machine, you bought the big machine, things started to grow. Like, what other steps have happened along the way that have really helped you to get to where you are now?
Look, we were very lucky and had a lot of really nice people help us along the way, people that I had met over the years, and also Kim, people from restaurants or, people that I knew from when I had the cafe that just had lots of great business suggestions for us, and, people in the label industry. So I had an old colleague, he did our first labels, and one of my friends from volleyball, she designed our first label. So it was a real community effort at the start. People were just willing to help to see us get off the ground. We had the usual struggles. We got our first print of labels and the labels weren't right. you put it on the bottle, and because it's a cold product, the label started to deteriorate because it didn't have the right finish, lamination finish. So all these things you learn after the fact. So we got another round of labels for that. We got our bottles. Some, at one stage the caps weren't quite right because they didn't withstand the pressure of the HPP. So that all had to be redone. And then I guess going into actual logistics and distribution has been a massive learning curve as well, like dealing with, for example, I guess one of our big relationships these days is dealing with our suppliers. So our produce supplier, we order like hundreds of thousands of dollars of produce every year. Like over, I would say even it's close to $750,000 worth of produce a year minimum. So all of that, we have really good relationship with our supplier there, our bottle supplier, and then the HPP guys. Like, we've seen a lot of people go through HPP, and we're still standing there as one of their first customers. So it's really nice to have that long-standing relationship with them.
Just interesting from a supplier perspective to see, like, what are they thinking about your growth? They must be pretty happy.
Yeah, I guess, they've watched us along the way, especially the guys at HPP, and, doing one cycle the first few months, and then we went to 2 cycles, and, other people were doing 15 cycles. We're like, oh, we'd love to do 15 cycles. And, they're starting to really see our growth as well. And, our growth is good for them too, because there's more cycles through their machine every week. And like, it's great to be able to grow. They were quite a new company at the time, so they've also grown a lot over the time, and they've always supported us along the way. So it's been really nice to have good, loyal relationships with all of our suppliers.
Do you think they ever thought that you'd be where you are now?
No, maybe not. I think they're, you're a startup, right? So a lot of people, or the rule of thumb is 5 years, right? If you can survive the first 5 years, then you've obviously built a good enough foundation. And, sometimes over those 5 years, we obviously haven't had looking at each other going, is this actually going to work? Or are we growing fast enough? Or are we doing enough? Because you always feel like, I guess, you should be doing more, or there's more you can do. We can have a never-ending list of to-do list. My to-do list has not ended in 6 years, and it seems to keep growing rather than getting shorter. So maybe that's why we keep growing, because, excuse me, my list keeps growing. But yeah, I guess it's nice to look back and see where we are today, and look towards the future as well, see what that holds.
Well, if you think about, you're mentioning 200 bottles, you're now doing 50,000, 200 bottles a week, 50,000 now. That's like a 2,500%, I think, if my maths is correct, increase over 5 years. That's pretty significant growth for any business. You mentioned before about education, so clearly people are getting the message about the difference with a cold pressed juice versus a pasteurized juice or even a fresh juice. But what is that education? Like, what is different about this? What is different about the price point? Why should I pay more for this than I would for some other juice?
We have a clean label, right? Our label says exactly what's in the juice. It says exactly how much of each product, each ingredient is in each bottle. So you can see exactly what you're putting in your body. There's no hidden ingredients. It's unfortunate, I guess, because I think some companies tend to sell products and they don't necessarily list everything that's on the label or what process it's been through to get to where it is now. And that's something we could also do in the future, is on our actual bottle, educate people, say, well, this is high pressure process. And what is that? Or, we say it now, we have the Nectar Promise, and it's all about how we source our fruit and veg and the process it goes through, and that there's no additives and nothing, just what's in the bottle. And I mean, in a nutshell, we really tried to put that on there so people can know, okay, this is what I'm getting. It's authentic, it's honest, because that's how we are and that's how we want it to be for our customers.
So are you saying that's enough to educate a consumer though, or that's more of a personal values process? So why would I have cold pressed juice over another juice?
I think cold pressed juice is becoming a lot more well known now for its health benefits and because it's a better, more natural way to make juice. And so people realise now, after 6 years of it being in the market and slowly growing, you have your mainstream cold pressed juices now in Coles and Woolies. And that helps. It helps having some cold pressed things on the shelf there to market to the general consumer who shops there. And I guess when you go to your more specialty IGAs and grocers like Harris Farm, they generally have products that are a little bit higher in price, but there's a reason why they're a little bit higher in price, because they have, a uniqueness about them, or they're smaller manufacturers who actually do different processes to bring you a less processed and more natural product. And I guess it just takes time, right? Like at the moment, we can't physically produce our juice to put it on a Coles and Woolies shelf. And, maybe in the future that's possible, as long as the people in there will then purchase it. So it's got to be at the right price point for the real general public to go, okay, well, I'm going to buy your cold pressed juice that has 51% carrot in it versus maybe a nudie juice, or I think nudie juice is probably one of the biggest sellers in Coles and Woolies. But, they have a carrot blend, but you might only have a smaller amount of percentage of carrot. It depends. I know customers are definitely reading labels more these days, so probably now is our time to start that process to really get it in front of everybody.
Yeah. So it sounds to me it's more real.
It's 100% real.
Yeah.
So, like the main supermarkets these days are full of packaged processed food. So this is as close as we can get to a natural product in a bottle ready for you to consume at its most natural flavour, natural taste.
So being a real product obviously is a reflection of yourself, your sister, and all of your team. Is it really important from a value system that what are your values?
Yeah. So it's about honesty, authenticity, and just being, our pillars really that we work on. We want to provide health, taste, value, and convenience. So we've got the health and the taste. We're working, obviously we see it as great value right now, but obviously to get it out to mass people, they want it cheaper. But we need to obviously scale. Well, we've scaled over the 6 years, but there's another big step to get it to that level, But right now there's a big market in cafes, restaurants, hotels, premium grocers, that all the people who are health conscious and want real products, they shop there. And that's our focus right now.
So you now have a distributor, I believe?
Yeah, so we have a distributor looking after us in ACT, New South Wales, and also Victoria, and working on Queensland as we speak. So really, if we can saturate the eastern seaboard, and then look into the future of taking it over to Western Australia, South Australia, it'd be great to have national distribution. Like really, that's focus for us this year to work on that plan. I've had conversations with people about exporting as well, especially to Asian countries. So that's also in the pipeline. And New Zealand's always on the cusp as well. I guess it's just finding someone over there.
Yeah.
And just making sure the market's ready for it as well. So it's got to, everything's got to turn over in volume. Distribution's all about volume. So you've got to really hit the mark of who's selling your product. Are they aligned with you, which our distributor is very well at the moment. We're very lucky to have found them. And, we work really well together. And then if they can sell it into the right places, the volume is there.
How'd you feel when you got the distributor based on the kitchen bench when you first started? Like, that's a massive step, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, over the years, probably 3 years ago, we sort of started toying with getting a distributor, but we weren't at the right price. We couldn't manufacture for the right price. We couldn't bring it to them. So everyone needs their cut, right? The distributor needs their margin. The retailer needs their margin to be able to sell it, and then we'd still need it on the shelf at a reasonable price. So I think my first dabble in distribution, I was selling it to the distributor, and they were selling it to the retailer, and the retailer had to sell it for $8. And back then it was quite a unique product. There were a lot less cold pressed juices around, but $8 was still a push, even a push for the I guess wealthy areas in Sydney, where we started thinking, okay, this is where we need to start because people are willing to spend the money. But now over, improving our manufacturing, buying more machinery, scaling, we've been able to bring the price down. So now it can sit on the shelves for, anywhere between $4.50 and sometimes in a cafe, $5.50, $6.
Yeah. You've got this distributor, they've said yes, they've in multiple states, all of a sudden your leverage is a lot higher, you're going to have to make more juice. But before you had the distributor, what did you used to do? Because you have to make the juice, you have to get all the fruit and veg, you got to organise your team, you got to then go out and sell. How does it work? Do you and Kim start growing, or when did you bring on your first staff member, and how does it all work from there?
Look, we used to do everything together. Okay, so we'd make the juice together. We would we had a few little separate roles at the start. I would do the cold calling for the cafes. Kim would do the HPP side and the delivery side initially when we, were delivering to a handful of customers each week. We were very lucky. We had a good friend offer up his son's services to help us out for the first, I think it was nearly 2 months. He came and worked 1 day a week with us in the factory.
Wow.
As work experience. He was 16, 17. He would help us juice and bottle and put labels on bottles because everything was hand labelled, everything was hand bottled.
So were you in the kitchen at this point at home, or?
No, so after we got the big machine, we organised to share a space with a pizza shop. And because the pizza shop was only open at night time, we could use that shop from 6 a.m. until 4 p.m. So we got our big machine delivered there. This big carton got delivered, box. Kim and I rock up to unpack it, 1 hammer, 2 girls to unpack this box at the back of this shop.
I heard you were wearing some interesting uniform at the time too.
Wearing shorts and thongs on. We were very lucky that a tradie walked past and offered us a hand to undo the box and help us get the machine into... I guess we just didn't foresee the size or the weight, and we weren't very prepared. We were just like, we'll work it out. So that's when we started. We started renting 1 day a week in the back of this pizza shop, making the juice all in 1 day, getting it to HPP the next morning. Then we'd box it. Kim would do deliveries. I'd hit the road again doing sales, trying to get more customers. And as we started growing, we brought on 1 more person. Then we brought on 1 more person. And I guess it was all about, and it has been since day one, it was really about getting the juice made and getting it into the bottle and getting it out to customers. Like, that's got to be the priority. The quality's there, the consistency's there. Otherwise, we don't want people coming back saying, this is not right, or this doesn't taste the same. So even though we're using natural products, yes, the colour does vary slightly depending on season, and the taste also, because it's natural taste. So, in some of our blends, if we're using pineapple and they're underripe in some periods, if we can't get nice ripe pineapples, or if they're overripe, it's just a slightly different taste profile sometimes. It was slow, steady growth. We had 2 kids each, so there's only so much we could do every week.
Sounds quite synergistic though, like even the tradie walking past with a hammer to help, and every step of the way. So you're in this pizza shop. How do you even find a pizza shop that has a room that's...
Like, we were just lucky. An old acquaintance from the cafe, it was their shop. So I said, look, is there any chance we could use the back of the shop, just the kitchen part, 1 day a week? He's like, yeah. That turns into 2 days a week, turned into 3 days a week. And then we're like, okay, I think we need to move out of here. And we were lucky enough to there was another startup company on the Northern Beaches who were in a factory, and they needed to sublet some space, and they built us a little production area. So we had our first, refrigerated production room, cool room in their space, and we were there for maybe just 18 months. And then we moved out near the market. So we get all our produce from the markets. So it made sense to move out that way, even though we had to drive out there and drive back. Do all of our manufacturing out there. The HPP machine was out in Homebush, so everything then was 5 minutes from each other. Logistics was easy. It was just more of our time to and from, but we didn't have to go there every day.
So how do you manage cash flow through this process? Because you'd obviously have to have you've got to transport things now. You've got machinery. You're now in your own factory. Yes, so now we're in our own factory. But thinking back, I don't even know how we managed it. Like, Kim and I didn't even pay ourselves for at least nearly close to a year. We were just working for the love, paying our staff, paying rent, paying for the produce, collecting money off customers, and I don't know how we did it. There were some really hard times, but I remember at one point when we looked at each other, okay, how about we start paying ourselves now? And, it was a big step, and we started paying ourselves a little bit, then a little bit more, and maybe 3 months later, okay, let's pay ourselves a little bit more. So it was really... We've grown very organically the whole way. We've never pushed it too far and tried to pay ourselves big salaries at the detriment of cash flow or hiring staff. Our whole focus has always been to grow the business, to make the business sustainable, and then grow how much money we give ourselves in scale with how the business is growing. And even to today, we have many part-time staff or casual staff, then we have 2 full-time staff, and then we have the 2 directors that get paid, and we're not collecting massive salaries, but we just take what we can, what's good for the business and what's good for us. How many staff have you got now? So now today we have 21
staff that work in the factory.
Wow.
We have a full-time manager, and then now a number of years ago, Kim's husband Adrian took over her role. She had a third baby, so Adrian came into the business and he manages the factory. He manages all the staff and the manufacturing side of the business. And so we've got, he and I work full-time, and we have our manager, the operational manager, and then all the 21 casual staff.
And you mentioned factory, so you've got your own factory now.
First time, October 2019, we moved after 6 years of building up a business. We finally moved into our own space, so it was very scary, massive expense, huge move, because we've grown. Moving from over Homebush back to Brookvale, we had truckloads of machinery and produce and packaging and just so much stuff we had accumulated over the time. But it took us a good 3 to 4 weeks to settle in. Like, every single bit of machinery that we moved had an issue by the time we got to Brookvale. Something had to be fixed. This broke. We had an electrician or plumber or an engineer fixing our machine. Pretty much every day for the first 2 to 3 weeks, someone was there working on something, the cool rooms. So, I can now say that everything is sorted, and it's been nice to get in there. We've had all of our certifications done, our food authority and HACCP and everything.
Well, again, I just keep going back to synergy, and everything seemed to grow organically. But if you were to educate, say, someone starting out in any business, could be manufacturing, could be anything, you can't plan for that, can you?
Look, I'm not much of a planner. I am very organized. I like to be very organized, but I don't look too far ahead. Kim is always saying to me, what's our next 5-year goal, or da-da-da. I'm like, I'm sort of more the day-to-day, week-to-week, maybe month-to-month, but you've just got to be patient. And I guess we always set goals, and we're always like, I always felt that we were not achieving things fast enough. We could be doing more. We could be achieving numbers faster, or getting more sales, or getting our prices down here. But in the end, we've just had to stand the test of time, I think, as well. And yeah, if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars behind you, thrown at you to say, here, go make this business work, it might be a different story, right? But it's been really, it's been a good process and a fun growth curve, I guess. A steep growth curve, dealing with a lot of new industries, logistics, distribution. Well,
that's another thing in itself. So you've learnt from scratch, other than having hospitality background, about a whole new game.
Mm.
And would you say now you're one of the, I guess, leading thought leaders in the cold press game?
Potentially. I never sort of think of myself in that regard. But yeah, often people will come, and other people from other brands, or just general questions, or, I often find myself doing new product development for people, whether it's different types of juices or nut milks or little shots. We actually make cut fruit for a retailer in Sydney now. So there's a lot of different things that we've taken on. Yes, we've always, obviously, cold pressed juice and making the cold pressed juice, that's our specialty. But having the skills from, I guess, hospitality background as well has allowed us to develop and bring on new products and do other things that other people have requested.
So again, growing organically, things happening synergistically, like you can't teach that, right? So is it a case more of that your values that you actually instill as people and as the business are helping that process, do you think? Or it just fascinates me how you have a plan, but you're not trying. I mean, you are trying every day to obviously make it work, but magic's happening around you, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been very lucky. And I look back and think, aren't we lucky sometimes that happened? Or we met this person. And it's funny, I've learnt that when you meet people and they take the time to have a conversation with you because they're interested in what you're doing, a lot of the people that gave me their time over the years, they were educating me. They were letting me know, should try this, or watch out for this, or maybe you should talk to this person. And I think after a few times, I really tried to then make sure I acted on when people were, giving me suggestions, especially people who I'd met that have been in the industry for a long, long time and met a lot of people, had a lot of connections. And everyone was, and I guess because I was asking questions as well, They wanted to help. And so it's very, I guess, you just can't ask enough questions. And if you know people that can help you, don't be afraid to ask for help. Because people love to help. But if you go and, a few times I've tried to do things and being stubborn, I can do it by myself. And it just takes so much longer. It takes longer. Potentially you don't meet the right people and you don't get the outcome that you were looking for. But, you could just ask someone for help that will help you get there faster and maybe even less trial and error.
So what are your values?
For personally?
Well, I guess, personally and professionally.
It's both, they're very similar. Like, I always, I'm very honest, can't tell a lie. Anyone would know that. And it's not very good when you have to negotiate. I'm not a good negotiator at all. But, I'm honest, trustworthy, and always want to deliver on our promise. So, whether it's hiring our staff, the way people are performing in our factory, it all has to be the way it's meant to be. You can't do shortcuts. You just can't risk doing things not the right way because the consequence is dire. It's your reputation of your brand, it's people who are purchasing your product, and just your general reputation in the market.
And obviously relationships are one of your highest values as well.
Yes, definitely. I mean, since day one, we still have many of our initial relationships with everyone that helped us at the start. We had people I had an old business acquaintance help me with just storing. When we started to get pallets of bottles, we had nowhere to put pallets of boxes. He put them in his warehouse for me, and I used to, pay him a weekly fee for that. I had our label printer. We were with him for a long time, and he looked after us for our first maybe 2 or 3 years of doing our labels, really teaching me about the market, teaching me about the labels, and just how important the whole look and feel and what you need on your bottles. We've had, our bottle supplier now is still the same guy that we started with from our first original bottle. We've had many bottles over the time. We've changed from square to round to now milk bottle shape, like as you see in this size. But, we still use the same guy, and he always comes up with suggestions or feedback or if there's issues. It's been really nice. And I think that's what I'm like as a person. And I know Adrian's very similar as well. We're both very loyal people ourselves, and we then, I guess that just flows over to the people that we deal with. We've had some great people help us along the way, and some long-standing customers. Some our first customers that we found in Manly are still our customers today. So, sometimes they look at other things, but they're like, oh no,
They know what they're getting.
Yeah, exactly. Some have even tried other brands and then they've come back to us.
Yeah.
So it's just we're really focused on relationships, customer service, and really keeping our customers happy and our suppliers happy.
And so you mentioned Adrian. At some point, Kim stepped out of the business when she had her third child,
Yes.
and then Adrian stepped in.
Yes.
How important is family in the process as well?
Look, with both families fully involved, I guess there's always been 2 of us working in the business, but now the business is coming to a point where all 4 of us can work in the business together, and which is going to be great. Everyone has their own roles, but just having the family support as well. You can lean on each other, you can push each other, and I think it's really, and there's, a lot of people say don't do business and family, it doesn't work. But, we've made it work, and it's working, and it's getting bigger, and it's getting better. So as long as we can keep all growing together, and the business is growing, and then we're all reaching our end goal, what more can you ask for?
Do you find there's many challenges from a business perspective?
Look, there's always challenges, right? And it's just a matter of communication and setting expectations as well, and then, keeping each other accountable. We don't always keep each other accountable, I guess, as much as we should, but look, we seem to always get to where we need to go, and that's our focus. We just focus on the goal or the outcome that we want, and we make it happen. And that's often, people come to us with little projects, and we're like, look at each other like, I don't know how we're going to make this happen. Let's just say yes, and we'll find a way to make it happen. And that's how we've rolled for a while now.
Yeah. And I guess now for the potential outliers that are out there, other entrepreneurs, etc., who may be inspired by the story or want to start their own story, what are some of the challenges you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome them?
Look, a big challenge is balancing family life and business life, and as the business grows, it tends to take more of a hit on the family life. You know, kids get extra days in daycare, or you have nights where you're not at home with the family. But in the end, we've always made sure as well that we take holidays, and you have to have some time off. And to really, yes, business can swallow you up in no time and you have no perspective, but you have to try and set yourself a schedule, be organised really, and then make sure you have some balance with family time, work-life balance really. It's like any corporate job, entrepreneur, you know, whatever you're doing. If you don't have balance and if you're not happy outside of work, you're not going to be happy in work.
So you've now got 3 kids as well?
I do, yes. We had our third in July last year. So that was, you know, another challenge, I guess. Like it's lovely. It's actually lovely. It's been 7.5 year break between my second and third. And it's been amazing having another little baby and baby cuddles and going through all those phases again. And I think, you know, we've got 2 older boys, so it helps. They've been amazing. But yeah, we're back to daycare and back to all that juggle again on another level. So, you know, and, you know, both families, you just make it work. You talk to each other, whatever each other needs, and help each other out. And it's lucky we live close by as well. We work close where we live. So it's made that whole transition into having a new baby and a new factory all a lot smoother, I think.
So again, you're an inspiration for a lot of mothers out there, I'm sure. And you mentioned work-life balance. So obviously there's balance between business and family, but you obviously got to have some personal time as well. What do you do in your personal time?
So personal time for me is go and play sport really, or I go to the gym or play beach volleyball. But outside of that, I still class personal time as just downtime as well. Downtime, even if it's with 1 or 2 of the kids or all the family together. Personal time for me, individually, doesn't have to be time by myself. Like, you know, some people just love and re-energize from time by themselves. But I think it's just time where I can relax and you can just sit and watch a movie, or you can, you know, go for a walk or go for a bike ride, or, you know, we live in a great place. We can go for a surf, or just having some flexibility to be able to do something fun.
And where do you find the time?
I don't have a lot of time, honestly. Between now, kids sport and on the weekends. Kids sport on the weekends. Obviously, I want to go do my gym or whatever on the weekends. There's not a lot of personal time, but so we've just got to make the most of it.
And other challenges you've had, I believe at one point you even managed to deliver juice in a cyclone. Is that the truth?
This is back in February 2015. We had an issue at HPP. They had a breakdown, or had a massive reconstruction happening for 3 weeks. And it just happened to coincide when we were releasing our new shape bottle and our brand new branding and label. And Kim and I decided, look, there's no way. We've got this new bottle, new label. We've sold it into our stores for 1 week to then say, oh, we don't have any more for 3 weeks. So we decided that I contacted a company up in Bundaberg, far north Queensland, and they had a HPP machine. They were happy for us to drive our stock up there. So when you think about it, okay, so our juice had to be made. We had to make all of our juice during one day. We made it all day, put it all in the truck. And then we had to drive straight away to get to Bundaberg because it took us overnight so that night we drove as far as we could. We slept in the truck, and we were so novice that we didn't want to turn the truck off because we didn't want the juice to lose temperature. So we slept in the front of the truck with the noise of the fridge on all night. Then we drove up to Bundaberg the next day. It took us the whole day. Finally got there in time. We stayed at a motel that night, dropped all of our stock off, and then it got HPP'd first thing the next morning. But yeah, we drove into the middle of a massive cyclone, and we had to then take back roads home, and like it was such a mission, and people were like, you guys are crazy, but that was a part of our thing. We didn't want our customers then to have this brand new look and feel of our juice and then not have it for 3 weeks. So that's what we did.
So it's really interesting to me listening to that. You know, like on paper, that's you're driving in a cyclone to help deliver to a customer, but that says a lot. It speaks volumes for yourself, for Kim, for Adrian, for the business as a whole, that you literally will go to whatever lengths to deliver your product on time, as we've said it, in the condition that we've stated.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to do whatever you can. If you haven't done whatever you can, then you haven't done the best you could, right? And that's the way we work.
So how do you teach that?
Well, if you want the result, really, if you want a result with anything, you have to do whatever it takes to get there. And I guess that's all it comes down to. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to reach your goal or reach your dream? Or
is that an outlier trait, or is that a trait that can be taught to anyone? Or, you know, like, it's not, because there's a lot of people who pull the pin on a lot of stuff really early, right? But the successful people, to me, are the ones who persevere under whatever conditions to get the outcome they're after.
Yeah.
What is it that drives you in that regard?
I don't know. I guess it's something that's always been in me. But I haven't really noticed it now until having businesses, right? When I had the cafe, you do whatever it took. If you had to be there at 7 a.m. or if you had something break down or if you had to make 100 lentil burgers by this time, you just do whatever it takes to make it happen and reach the deadline. And I guess I'm deadline driven. So if there's a deadline, I work better under pressure as well. I mean, if there's a deadline but the deadline's 3 weeks away, generally I leave it till the last week and then I start doing the work because, you know, it's not due until the end of the week. Well, that's where you get your energy, right? Yeah. So I guess, a lot of it for me is innate, and for a lot of people, I guess, it's innate as well. You probably could be taught it, but you've got to have the willingness and the drive to then see it through. So
obviously perseverance, grit, resilience, everything is a massive part of Nectar. Not obviously the juice itself, but getting the juice out to the world in its ideal state. You mentioned earlier that you also manufacture for other brands. Yes. You do other slightly different things in relation to fruit cutting, I think you mentioned. But if I gave you this opportunity to put a bit of a pitch out to the market, if someone's looking to have their juice produced by you, or someone's to take Nectar as a brand and for their cafe or restaurant or hotel or specialty store, the floor's yours.
Oh, okay.
What would you say?
Well, I guess we do pride ourselves on making cold pressed juice, and we have a number of customers well known in the market that we make their cold pressed juice for them. So essentially we're a contract manufacturer as well. So, you know, people looking for juice to be made, whether it's bulk juice, retail size juice, definitely reach out. We've devised a second company called Synergy Food Group. So it's still Adrian and I that head up that company, but we just separate it from Nectar the brand, because I guess Nectar the brand we want to keep for Nectar customers, people who want our brand. And then eventually one day, it would be great for someone down the track who wants to take our brand and run with it. But right now we're just focusing on cafes, restaurants, independent grocers, retail, independent grocers and premium retail. It's really where Nectar has solidified its place. And I would say, we just want to grow that market and get it out to as many people as possible. Like anything juice, nut milk related, we're always happy to do new product development, and we just love creating new products.
Well, again, it's interesting, isn't it? So you are essentially helping people who maybe are at the start of their journey or middle of their journey, and they're realising they can't do everything. They can't necessarily produce, then go and sell, and then do customer service, etc. Somehow you guys have managed to work that out, and that's fantastic. And you've now got multiple customers who already do that with you, but you're now calling out for more. So that in itself is an outlier trait, right? You're literally saying, let me take care of this, and I'll get Nectar out first. Now I'll help you guys as well.
Yeah.
And you've got, as I said, multiple customers. So that's a very admirable trait in its own right. Again, talk us through that. You're literally helping others in the process, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess, you know what, and it was quite phenomenal how that happened. It's like people started asking us to make juice for them, and we didn't realise at the time that actually helped us scale, because they needed some, which added to our volume. Adding to our volume then created another level of efficiency in our produce buying, in what sort of machinery we could purchase, the size press we have for our cold pressed juice side, and as we scaled up, we could make more juice, and then we could just service more people. So, in one respect, Nectar we've got to harness the brand, right? And really our messaging for Nectar is all about taste, health, value and convenience, and getting that out to as many people as we can. And then the people that come through us through Synergy, That's for them. We make it, we give them a finished product, and then they go and sell it to their customers. They market their brand to their customers. So,
well, it makes it easier, doesn't it? You've done all the production. All they got to do is have it delivered, and then they go and do all the marketing and
exactly.
And it just seems easier, more leverage for everyone.
Yeah.
So just on leverage, is there any mentors or courses or resources that you've engaged in that you felt have helped in the process? Like, what do you do for your self-learning?
Adrian and I both attended a course a couple of years ago that really helped us, I guess, indirectly. We went there to learn about ourselves and to learn about how we treat money and how we work with money. But in the end, it does teach you a lot about leverage, how to do more for less, how to, really make the most out of everything you do. Don't overcapitalize, don't spend where not necessary. And I think at the time when we did it, it was a lot of good learning for us, but it has helped us subconsciously over the past 2 years. It'll be 3 years in May when we did it, so over the past 3 years, and we've always sort of gone back to little principles that they brought up in that course, and it's reflected well for us.
So is it important to continuously learn as you're growing in your journey?
I think so, but I think part of my learning as an individual, I learn a lot from others. I learn a lot by speaking to others, watching others, and then applying that in our business. So it might not be official attending certain courses all the time or doing online training, but the more I talk to people and the more I ask questions, the more I learn, and then pass that on to our staff and the way we do business.
And that's another question, I guess, from a management perspective. 21 staff plus you guys. Is that a strength of yours, or do you guys? How does it work now as far as flow and strength goes in the business?
I guess both Adrian and I are very people focused in our natural abilities. He looks after the staff in the factory. He looks after our operations manager, and I then more look after our relationships, our suppliers, our customers, our Nectar customers, our distributors. So we've sort of split it so that I can be I'm not necessarily in the factory all the time. I'm out networking and just generally making sure everyone's happy. What can we do more? What can we change? How can we grow together? And also, helping distributors find new business where I can. And he sort of focuses his management skills on our staff.
Jacinta, if there was one day to live, you had one day to live and you had to share, say, 1 to 2, 3 key things to a potential outlier that's out there who's wanting to do something like yourself or even for their own business or life, what would it be?
Look, I think the things that come to mind for me are you have to be patient. Ask as many people as you can and talk as much as you can to people who do what you do or have done or are where you want to be. Learn from them because they've already done it. It'll be the path of least resistance. And really, that's what you want. And you have to be truthful and honest with yourself and honest with people you're dealing with. Because once there's too many people and too many things these days that if you burn bridges, there's no going back. So, you just got to stick to your values, stick to the way you operate, and you'll get to where you want to go.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. You and Nectar Cold Pressed are officially Outliers. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks.
Well, there it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed this inspiring Outlier episode with Jacinta McCombe. For more videos, resources and information, visit outlier.tv or connect with us on our social media pages below. I'm Andrew McCombe, and here's to living the Outlier life outside the comfort zone. I'll see you soon.